I want to talk about something that I think is very central to how we live our lives. And that is this idea of choice. Because we all have to make a lot of them. And sometimes it's not a big deal, you know, 2 cans of soup. Sometimes they're really big deals. You know, things like, do I take that job or don't I take that job? Do I marry that person or do I not marry that person? Do I turn right or do I turn left? And there are, in a sense, 2 places to go to make a choice in your life. One is into your mind, and the other is much more subtle. It's into yourself. Some people don't distinguish between mind and self, but self is a much deeper and much more connected reality. Mind is very temporal, very ego, body-based, very pleasure, pain-based. A cerebral choice, a rational choice, is based on algorithms, if you will, that you have created in your life since you were a baby. This will provide me with pleasure, comfort, safety. This will create pain, suffering, fear. And you weave those together in varying measures, and you try to make calculated choices about future, because choices are almost always about future. And if you are insecure about a choice, and it's a completely cerebral, rational event, the choice probably won't feel good. It won't feel very good. It'll feel okay. You will have arrived at something that says, this is the one I should do. But you'll probably feel a kind of discord centered pretty much around here. It keeps doubting what you've chosen. And sometimes you can get past that. You can really lock in and go, that was the right choice. Compartmentalize. Don't think about it. Just do it. Which is, it's better than suffering the consequence of your choices or doubting your choices. But there is a deeper place you can go where the choice, in a sense, is inevitable. Where it's guided by some kind of internal truth, a knowing, an intuitive awareness. People call it gut, people call it intuition. And it is both of those. But to put it in more spiritually digestible terms, it's really finding your core centered self. And how do you do that? How do you find yourself? How do you find this place that guides you, that knows something, that doesn't second guess itself, that just says, do this, yes, or no? Well, I can only talk about my approach because what else do I have? But it started out with and has been built upon this experience of meditation. The idea of meditation, and particularly Rudy's meditation, but the idea of meditation is to begin to let go of rational mind for a brief period of time, like 10 seconds. To just let go, to try to take your worldly attention from this third eye, brain-centric sensibility and let it come down. And what does that mean to let it come down? Well, we talk about these things called chakras, which are kind of energy centers, very, very much of sort of an Eastern concept, but very much part of our Western experience. And as you let your ideas, mindful events to come down, one, they find vocal expression here in your throat chakra. You can talk about them. And the next place ideas and thoughts and rational mind goes is down into your heart chakra. Heart chakra is where you feel what you're thinking. You feel what's going on inside you. Thought turns into feeling. And it is a guidepost of sorts because you can feel this thought leading into sweetness, this leading into sourness. This is yes, this is oh no. And it's an experiential thing. And it's very tangible. And we all feel it. We just don't know that it's a chakra, but we're feeling it. And then it can go down, down into this navel space. And this navel space is, it's past feeling in a way. It's really deeper than feeling. It's a kind of knowing. You might call it the intuitive space. It's the place of action, the place that knows what to do. Now when it's connected to mind events, it can get confused, but when it's not, when it's just operating here, it saves you in a way. It saves you in the deepest sense, but it's action. It's the place when your finger is burning, that goes like that before there's any mind or any heart. It just... I got stung by a bee the other day. I didn't even know I had been stung by a bee. I just felt all these things, but the action was to go like that and get rid of the bee. And then rationally pull out the sticker, and happily having a wife who knew about baking soda and, how to do stuff to get rid of the sting, which was powerful. But the gut level knew what to do long before I knew what to do. I once had a snake wrap itself around my leg, like that. And my leg went, it just shot out. I mean, my leg knew all about snakes wrapping around it. I knew nothing about snakes doing that. And it saved me because it was a dangerous snake. And, we know stuff. We just know stuff. Then there's the sexual part of our lives, which is recreative energy. It's a really vital pulling into something what you might call just blissful. Blissful knowing. It has an energy of sustenance, revival. And then there's this kundalini energy at the base of your spine, this sense of awe. So that isn't totally important to this particular discussion because that rising energy, which creates a kind of core connection, is experiential and it's vital. But what's really important is having a wholeness, something that goes from mind to gut, to sexual potency, to revival, to renewal. All of that, all alive and working in you. what I'm trying to get at is that if you live almost entirely making choices here, and you don't engage this being that you are, you're going to get into a lot of trouble. You are going to choose wrongly over and over and over. You will make choices that are based on pleasure, pain, pursuing and avoiding rational mind choices. And life cannot be understood that way. It cannot be lived that way effectively. The way life needs to be lived is embodied, meaning all of you involved. All of you. What happens in meditation is you arrive at a place, Rudy says you start in your heart and you ask for help to surrender, and you will get, if you hold your breath and still your mind, which is really what you're doing, for 10 seconds, you will feel this thing of, oh, oh. It's a sweetness, it's a clarity, it's a stillness, it's a presence, it's a release, it's a relief. For 10 seconds you just have, oh. And if you're lucky, it kind of goes, oh. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and you just go. But sometimes it doesn't do that, it just gives you 10 seconds. But that 10 seconds is so worthy, it's so wonderful, because it says, hey, there is a place outside of this. There's a place outside of this cognitive, complicated, I'm trying to think of a word, but it's a place that doesn't involve cognition, it just involves, oh. And it's so sweet and simple. And it's really an experience, or if you will, a taste of presence. It's a taste of presence. And if you can check into that and go, oh, without getting caught in being analytical about it or even being mindfully appreciative of it, just go, you can start to expand it and have it become longer than 10 seconds. As you get your mind even deeper, it goes into the navel chakra area, and I'm not trying to be too physiological here, I'm just trying to give you a sense of a way to look at this, but it gets even bigger. And then often there's this movement up your spine, which is best described, I would say, as awe or gratitude of enormous proportions. Because you're home. You're where you belong. If you have a choice to make in your life, making it from that place of being home, is like a rudder in the water on a ship. It just guides you. It truly knows where to go. You will feel right action, right course, or wrong. You'll just feel it. Now, in an evolved human being, it may tap into reason as well. You'll use your reason, you'll use dialogue with others, you'll use your heart to feel, and then you'll use knowing. And you will guide yourself or allow yourself basically to be guided through your life. It's an amazing thing to be guided through your life. And to find out that this thing knows where to go. You know where to go, what to do. It's very likely that for the first part of your life, you will be going through life guiding yourself with your mind and making terrible mistakes. Many people do. All of us do. But if you can learn this meditation experientially and begin this process of going down into yourself, you can begin to course correct your life at any time. You may have to steer out of some pretty tough stuff. You may be pretty lost in where you have found yourself when you become aware of where these thoughts and mindful things have led you. But if you don't freak out about that and you don't get into this, oh my God, what did I do, and then compound it, what you do is you find the tiller once again and you steer yourself back into yourself or into your life guided by yourself. So this brings up this idea of meditation, of a practice. Why is a practice valuable? Because it provides what Rudy used to call muscle. If you practice regularly, you develop this thing that will bring you back all the time into the place of being whenever you need to be there. Whenever you need to make a choice, you will be able to go back rather easily to yourself and just go, help me. Please help me. You may not even have to ask for help, it will just be present. And then you will move through life with a kind of what some people call grace. Does it change what hits you in life? Not at all. Heavy-duty stuff is still going to come up. Awful stuff, beautiful stuff, everything's going to come up. But your reaction to that, your response to that will be full-bodied awareness and presence. Or, oh my God, 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 which is a horrible way to live. And yet the way most people live. We all know it's the way most people live because it's how we lived. Perhaps it's even how you're living right at this moment. Forgive yourself for that because we're programmed for that. It keeps the world turning. All of our insanity keeps the world going. You know, they say love makes the world go round, but that really is, pursuit of something you don't have, looking for pleasure, fearful of losing what you have. It does make the world go round, but it's a dramatic incident. It's not pure joy. The world moves and we have to react to it. If you react to it just with your mind and you make choices just with your mind, you are going to wind up where you don't want to be. Period. If you begin a practice of starting to go into stillness, silence, openness, consciousness, presence, things will change. You will find a light inside that will say, do this, not that. Or, let's just put it this way, the light turns on and the darkness isn't there. You see where you need to go. Light's on, click. Oh, I've been doing this, click. So, let me do a little sales pitch for this particular practice, because I think it has value. I think all meditation has value. I think every moment of trying to get to stillness has value. But the nice thing about this class is simple. I don't know how Rudy taught this to me. I don't know where it comes from. I know you can go back into India and you can talk about Kashmir Shaivism and go to Nityananda and go back, through ancient time. Here's what I know. I sit here and this stillness, presence, sweetness, openness arrives. It has nothing to do with Bruce, because I could be totally crazy 2 minutes before I walk in this room. The minute I sit down, it's there. And it's not there for me, it's there for you. I know it's there for you. And it takes over. And all I do is I look at you. And what happens when I look at you is really interesting, because I see all of the bullshit. I don't just feel it, I completely experience it. It completely takes over my body. I go, oh. And each one of you is a different bag of shit, really. Each one of you has to be dealt with in a completely different way. But I've been dealing with this now for 40 some years. So I've gotten some skill at it. And what I do, basically in the simplest terms, is I love you. In subtler terms, I see where the problem is. I don't just see it, I actually feel it. And because I've worked through so much shit in myself over time, I know how to work through your shit. And it's a little bit, I've probably described this in other talks, like those guys now with the computers who take over your computer to fix it. You know, they say, okay, I'm signed on, you know, and I'm always thinking, oh my God, what are they going to see in my computer, you know, and you know, you don't want to turn your computer over to somebody else, but that's what you do here. You turn it over. And for a brief moment, not Bruce, this presence wafts out into your computer, and it does a very quick diagnostic, and it goes, okay, that's that. It knows what to do. It moves my hands, and it's really weird because I have nothing to do with my hands, but I can tell. It's very subtle. The tiniest little movement is moving all of these forces, and it never stops until it's done. Until I can say, your computer's working again. Here's my, you know, pay me. You know, give me my $150 for the hour, which, as you know, I don't charge. But this is how it works. There is a correction that's made every time you sit here and you come to this class. Something goes in and makes a repair. Some of you hold on to that. You leave here with a sense of, oh, boy, feel better. You go home, you feel good for a while, and then old patterns start to come in, and they just sort of reestablish themselves. Some of you have a regular practice where you sit every day. I've always encouraged that you sit every day. Why? Because it develops a muscle system of trying to open and reach into these places of presence and stillness and clarity. Some of you, even within a minute of my working with you, are back in your head going, and I can feel it. I feel I just did all this work, and I don't say I so much as this work was done, and you've just completely demolished it. And some of you do that week after week. It's like you take it in, spit it out. Take it in, spit it out. I don't know why you do that, but it's something I watch. And some of you really use it. Some of you are growing tremendously, meaning very powerfully established in an ability to contact this presence and stillness. Some of you waver back and forth. It's completely your choice. I will sit here week after week with what Rudy described as a kind of divine patience. And I will just keep doing the same thing. I will dig the hole and you'll fill it in, and I'll clear out the hole and you'll fill it in. And I'll go, it's not my job to do anything but dig out the hole. Dig it out, put it in presence. That's all I do. And I will do it till the minute I drop dead, I think. Then there is, and I've talked about this ad nauseum for many of you, a moment that can occur, that may occur, where the you that owns presence, that has 5 minutes of it or 10 minutes of it a day, the you falls away. And then there's just that presence. And at first that presence feels like divine bliss, that you will have it all the time. But you don't have anything all the time. Nobody does. It's there, it's never, ever not there. And it's true for me because I experience it pretty much by just looking in. For you, it's there because you sit and meditate and you reconnect with it for a bit. but it goes through endless daily changes. We all have to live our lives, we all have to go through our drama. An awakening to self is is a blessing, but everyone is that self. The only difference is knowing it or not knowing it. That's the only difference. And of course it's a big difference, but it doesn't change anything. Everyone in this room is divinely present. Your life is exactly what it needs to be in all of its fullness, good and bad. It's living, it's being lived, let's put it that way. Your life is being lived. You are in an ownership position thinking you're doing it. The realization is that you're not doing it. Even all of your bad choices, all of your drama, all of your shit is a necessary part of something, or it wouldn't be. The journey to clarity, the journey to openness, the journey to release, to selfhood, is what you're on. Wherever you are in that journey is where you need to be. Yes, it causes pain. Pain is often the instructive element. It tells you you are fucking up over and over and over and over, and finally, when the pain is absolutely unbearable, you will find, out of absolute necessity, yourself. But it's amazing how much punishment people can take. It is amazing. You can, if you want, begin to take rational mind and engage it in the pursuit of oneself. You can begin to align this craziness by just having it say, please help me to surrender. That's how you do it. You just use this. And how do you get to use it? When you are really suffering enough, you will find out how. It's not the only way. You can actually make an intelligent choice and go, life is pain, life is suffering, life is searching for things you can't have and may not get or do get and then lose, and realize the futility of the human journey. You may do that, and then you just make a choice, like, I'm not going to live in this insanity, which it is. Totally insane. Always reaching for the thing that you have and lose, always running from something you're afraid of, always thinking it's going to be around the corner, and never having it really be around the corner, except occasionally you have a moment. It's crazy. Enter into this journey of stillness. Enter into the journey of presence. Find that 10 seconds a day, or that 10 minutes a day, or that 2 hours a day, and be in that space as best you can muscularly allow that to happen. By that I mean asking hard, reaching deep, and then letting go. And let it happen. It's a real gift. It's as close as most people will ever get to enlightenment or awakening, and it really is a taste of awakening and enlightenment. It just isn't full bore. How do you get it to be full bore? I can't say, but Glenn and I were talking about a guy we met in North Carolina who had no money. He was an amazing, wonderful guy who flew from Australia, making endless sacrifices to go to this conference on awakening. And during the conference, pop, it happened. But his journey was at such risk to himself, and so difficult, and so he barely had enough money to make a phone call once he arrived in America. But he wanted this so badly. He wanted it so much. given. Each of you who comes here, I feel the want. I really do feel the want, but I feel it's like a want, kind of. I really want it, but... And it doesn't give you. It took me 45 years of wanting, so I completely understand that it's not something that's handed over lightly. You have to be a vessel that can live it. Not always the case. There are people who just pop and then have to figure out, how do I become that vessel? But that becomes your whole effort. But one way or the other, I'm not trying to create it as a goal, because that's problematic. Waiting for awakening is like, waiting for Godot on some level. It may be, but here's the truth, and I keep saying it over and over. The place you are trying to arrive at in your life is exactly where you are. And if that in your mind goes, oh my God, I don't want to arrive here. I don't want to arrive where I am. I don't want to arrive in this craziness. I'm telling you, that's where you're going to get to. The minute you open to that, the moment you go, help me to surrender to this moment, something remarkable happens. You stop and you look at this life that you are fighting and debating and doubting and struggling with, and you just look at it and you go, and it's just amazement. You become flooded with amazement at your own life, at the details of your life, at the sadness of your life, at the beauty of your life. You arrive at this moment, and when you take off the blinders of doubt and all that other stuff, and you just see your life, you will fall totally in love with your being, with being itself, with life itself. Trust me, you are so grateful to be here, you wouldn't want to leave here for anything. The preciousness of all of this is so great. And then in this bigger vision that arises, one, you see that there's no you that has arrived here, and there is no you that's going to leave here. And that makes no sense. I know it makes no sense. But get rid of that for the moment and go, I'm here. I'm here. Who am I? What am I? I am this. I am. What is this? Got me. How can you explain this? No clue. But I'm here. I am. That's what you get to. And that's all anybody's looking for. And you're already there. I mean, you're not going to wake up to the fact that you're somewhere else. So, that's the journey. And choices along the way determine so much of what's going to take place. Once you've made a choice to be able to go deeper and choose from your heart and your gut, if you will, rather than from reason, life will be a lot simpler, a lot more beautiful. You will feel guided, you will feel supported, you will feel loved, you will feel grateful. And until you make that choice, which will come out of terrible struggle and suffering and disappointment, but until you make that choice, you're going to keep making bad ones. Any questions?
I'm not sure I can even find words to articulate this, but I guess what I want to say is, who is God in this discussion. I mean, this may sound a little ridiculous, but when you watch a football game, college football, there's something so remarkable. It is God. It's all about God. I give it over to God. And you see these young, sort of just these athletes who just give up their doubt. They trust. But what are they really talking about? Because I know it feels like they're saying God is someone, but it also feels like they're just saying they give up their doubt. They accept that life is precious, beautiful, and they just drop the doubt.
Well, I mean, the discussion of God is a complicated one for most people. Many people's idea of God, of course, is not God. The idea of God is your own construction. It's your own creation, and most of us create God in our mind as something from from an old guy in the sky to to some unknown mysterious thing. A lot of people who have awakened will say that you are God and you create the idea of God. But there's a real problem with that, because everyone who hears that statement thinks that you personally create it. It's really self-created. All I can say, and I can't say a lot, is that I have turned over all need to know to this idea of mystery. But I know I go so crazy with people who think that they have a direct line, or that they are that God is working just for them, or their group of people, they're the chosen ones, or they are whatever. Of course that's not true. What's true is this is true. And this, in a sense, truly, this is what I would call God. This mystery, which we think of as, well, that's another person, and that's a carpet on the floor, and that's a ceiling, and that's a sky, and all of that. We label all these things and we lock them in as somehow givens. None of that's a given. It's self-creating every instant. Every instant. We don't feel it that way. Just like a television, we don't feel the picture being created by a little electron. But that's what's happening. It's being assembled and created moment to moment. And that force, their mysterious, brilliant, ancient, infinite force, is what I would call God. But it's not in any way separate from us, because we are what it's creating. We are the very thing that's doing the creating, but that's incomprehensible to our mind. The minute we own that, we're wrong. But the minute you let go, it's true. And its truth, it's the magnitude of its truth. The truth of reality is so beyond mental comprehension. We are these little tiny microscopic things trying to grasp. You can't grasp it. You are it. I can't, everything I say about it will be wrong, but I think having a personal relationship with God for most people means that they have some identity with presence. They have some sense of something, and athletes are really good at this. They have intuitive sense. That ball is sailing through the air on a football field. How they make that catch, I will never understand. All the training in the world to jump up in the air and have that ball coming at you, and then suddenly there you are with it, and then the urge to protect it at all costs and fall on the ground and have people pound on you, and what is that? What is that? But that's their connection to what I would say for them is God. They're part of a miracle. I watch guys, athletes do things that can't be done. I watched The Cream years ago with Ginger Baker playing drums, and I said, that's not humanly possible. It can't happen. But there it was, right in front of me. And so you're seeing people who in that moment are totally present. Richard and I had a discussion the other day about his tennis practice and how much it's improved by his not caring, by his not trying, by something else happening, by letting go. And when you do that, you're touching something that feels like what I would call God, Or when you're deeply, deeply suffering, really suffering, and deep is the key word there, deeply suffering, and you go down, down, down into despair, and below it, suddenly something comes in and catches you. It takes you. It comforts you. I would call that an experience of God. But God beyond this, to give it limitation, to give it a name. I mean, what really gets me is people who say, I don't believe in God. I'm going, what do you think this is? What do you think you are? What is the breath that's happening? What is the taste in your mouth? What's seeing through your eyes? How do you explain that to people who are walking around blind, deaf to the very truth that's always there? That's like, doesn't make me crazy because I get it, and because of course we all come through that. Everyone comes through that. But awakening is going, oh, this is that. This is God. I am living in God. I am one with God. I am that. When that happens, when that dawns on each of us, when you swallow a piece of food, I went to an amazing restaurant last night that Ari took us to. I'm telling you, I mean, I was digesting and eating God. I was tasting God. It was so good. It was so good. And I've been trying to eat less and differently, so I've been depriving myself, and last night I didn't. So the fullness of that pleasure was like, oh my God. And I loved it. And I was grateful. I was grateful, like, to be born to have those tastes, to be born to experience. And I talk about my granddaughter all the time, and you're about to have another child. I mean, I assume any minute at this point. You touch that. What are you? You can't even stop staring at it. What is this living thing? How can you not know God in that? So, I can go on, but we make up God on some level, and we make up God in our own image, and we decide that this God is the only God, and it will kill you if you don't believe in our God. That's fucked up. It's terrible. But it's not what God is. It's just a belief in something that people need to hold on to. For what? For safety. Everyone's terrified in life, and they want safety. There is no safety. That really knowing God is knowing there's no safety. There's only God. Anyone else? Thank you.